Rural Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine featuring articles about farming and logging with draft animal power, small-scale diversified family farming and homesteading, and other aspects of our rich rural heritage. Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com.
Well, in the blacksmith shop, I like to take a lot of discarded items and turn them into something useful. And today I'm going to show you some of the steps on how to make you a nice little door pull out of an old discarded horseshoe. It's not as hard as it looks, but there is a little to do about getting it done that way. So we'll hopefully attempt to get it to look something like this when we're done. Set that one off to the side. The first thing we're going to have to do is go into the fire. And we talk a lot about tongs and making sure we got a good hold on our work. And these tongs here should do the job. If they don't, once I get it hot, I got all kinds of them back here, I'll choose a different one. So what we're going to want to do is to straighten this horseshoe out. So we'll go into the fire and we'll start bringing some heat into that shoe. And as we let that sit there a minute, I'm going to grab a tool here to help me out a little bit. And this will go right into the anvil hardy hole there, called a turning fork. We could do it in the vise if we wanted, but this is a little more efficient. I can go straight to that tool, work out what I can that's hot, whatever bend I need, whatever I can get by with the amount of heat that I have, versus going to the vise and clamping it in. I got to take the time to clamp it, unclamp it, and all that kind of stuff. So as you can see, it doesn't take too long to get her good and hot. So we'll come over here to the turning fork, and I'm just going to take this right around here and start to straighten this. So as you can see, we made that much distance in one heat. As you can see, I'm a little lazy right there. We'll take a little of that out. That's pretty straight as compared to how much heat that I have. So to get the rest of this, we'll go back into the fire. We'll go down in there where it's good and hot. So we're in the fire here. We're just about ready to come out. We're going to go back to our turning fork again and attempt to work on some more straight. So we'll hook this at a different angle. I'm just going to see what she'll do by hand. So as you can see here, as I'm bending that horseshoe has already been bent once to make the horseshoe, and it's still, all those fibers and molecules and all these strands of steel in there, they're still kind of at that angle, and we're trying to attempt to turn them back to straight when their original form. So as that bend happens, it's automatically wanting to do all kinds of things in bends and twists. So we're going to go back into the fire and we're going to heat that up again. We're going to come to the anvil, we're going to straighten that back out. A pretty important thing for me that I always have to remind myself is that as I'm doing these different projects, always thinking a step ahead or 2 steps ahead even. Being prepared for your next move is going to really help you out a lot as you anticipate making a piece, what you're going to want to do next, because it doesn't do you a whole lot of good to come into the fire, get it hot, and then come out here and try to figure out at that point what to do. So have your plans made on what you're going to do, the tools you're going to need to do it. That way when you do come out of the fire, you're prepared to do that very thing. I don't want to hit that real hard because I don't want to disrupt those nice pretty edges where the cleat or the crease is. I want to keep those maintained nice and sharp. So we'll just do a little bit at a time. We'll go back into the fire, heat her up some more. So as you can see, we're gaining on it. The first time that I bent by hand as it twisted, I paused to show you the twist before I reheated. As you notice that time, as it twisted crooked, I used the heat that I had still in it to straighten it up the best that I could for the heat that I has. Okay. We're just going to come back in here and give that a little bit more. Something about like that. Take that little area out right there that's got that ridge. Now you might say, well, why don't you try to hit it right in this area right here and try to straighten that out? Two reasons. Number one, I'm not hot enough there to do it any good. Number two, if I try to do that, these tongs are probably not going to hold it, and it's probably going to end up somewhere over there. That's about the safety part of it. So I'm going to put it now in the fire. If you notice, I've concentrated on each end. Now I just got to take this out of the middle. So I go into the fire with that part that I'm wanting to get hot into the fire to heat it. And I'm going to want to get it tight up against there too. I don't want to bend the whole thing. I just want to bend it where I need it to bend. Something about like that. As you see, it wants to roll and do things, so we're going to come out here to the anvil, work that part of it out, truing it up itself the best we can, and then we're going to go back in the fire again. So it takes a couple times to do it now. There's all kinds of things a fella can make out of an old horseshoe. It'd take me all day to tell things I've seen other folks make. I'm not so much of a welder for arc welding different things, but I do like to forge them into things. Door handles, I've made hinges out of them. They're pretty neat looking hinges. Bottle openers. I've made steak turner out of some with a horse head on one end of them, and they're just all kinds of things. Plus they're pretty cheap. If you got some friend of yours that might be a farrier, or you know somebody that's got horses, sometimes you can just either talk them out of them or arm wrestle them out of them, whatever you got to do to get them. I'll come out here since this doesn't need too much. Start to take this out in there. True this up some. Alrighty, we're gonna need a little bit more. Down in there. Maybe a little there. So the next thing you know, after you've been working on it for a while, you get it pretty straight. And that's what we want to do with our first step, is get that good and straight, and then we'll start to draw us out a couple of spades on the end, at which we'll drive punch a hole through later on. So we'll go back in the fire and prepare that part. So we're back into the fire here, just the end. Obviously I'm not trying to heat up a good big large section of it. Just want to heat up a little dab of it. I'm going to get another tool. And in the blacksmithing world, we call this a fuller, a spring fuller to be exact. This is made out of a piece of coil spring off of some kind of old vehicle. And what it does is, as I bring a piece of steel into this, I can hammer down on the top of that jaw and get an indentation. And then of course I've got that opposite working up from the bottom that's going to give me another indentation. And it's going to form a real neat looking area on that we're going to start our spade with. As hopefully we will show. So I'm going to come in here. Now I'm looking for my crease edge. I want about as much metal of that as I can. We're going to come out here. That in there didn't go as deep as what I'd wanted. I'm trying to be easy, as I can get that too far. So then we have what ends up as that. Got a little neck area and a little shoulder area. and that's what we want to start and form. I don't want to get that so thin that vibration and shock of me working the other end with that end cold could actually break it. So I want to leave some good meat on there, and we could make it a little bit more, but I think I'm going to leave it just the way it is. I like that look right there. Plus we're gonna feather that out each direction some and make that spade wider. So we won't need this for a moment. We'll set it off the side. And we'll start to worry about that end there. So now, as soon as this gets good and hot, I'm going to kind of put a little point on the end of that. We'll come here to the anvil, and we'll start to point this. Down to a point. As we do that, we're making it thicker and somewhat longer. So I'm going to kind of try to keep it halfway the same throughout. So now we've got us somewhat of a point on there where we've gotten cold as we talk about it and show it. So we'll go back in, heat it up. Notice I've got that piece laid right out to the edge of my anvil so my hammer doesn't come in contact with the face of my anvil. Alright, that's a pretty good sharp point. I think I'm going to leave that for now, and I'm going to start working on this part back here. So I'm going to come, and I'm kind of working from the center back to me this direction. Now on the other side, I'm going to do just the opposite, or I'm going to turn it over and hammer it from this way, pulling it back to me. And as we do that, that's going to spread that out. And as we talk and describe, it gets cool and we have to go back in and heat up again. Turn it over, start working this other side. The other way. And as you see, that start to look like a spade or a flame or however you'd like to describe it. We're going to get a little bit more than that. Make sure we keep straight at this point. Take the opportunity with the heat you have at the time to straighten it back up. Back to the anvil. And we'll pull that out a little bit more. See, we're losing our heat, but we're making progress. Try to get just a little bit more out of this one. That side I'm pretty happy with. This side here needs a little bit. Something in that area. And just a little bit of a true up. So I think I like that. Just like that. And I'm not as concerned about the front being as thick as where I'm hitting with a hammer here as the rest of that shoe, but I am concerned being flat across the back because that's the part that's going to go up against the wall or the side of the barn or whatever you choose to use it for. Might be able to get that just a little bit straighter. I think I want to straighten that just a little bit. Our tip's a little lazy. Alright, so I'm looking to see where I need, and I need for this end to go up. So I'm going to hit it on that side. A little bit there. Almost. I think that'll work for me. So now as I'm hitting it that way, I'm feeling in my tong hand for vibration, I know it's pretty flat. So we're going to go to the other end and start working on it. We come out of the fire this time. Same thing, I'm looking for about where my crease stops. Turn it over. A little hard to tell what I got. It's almost as close as the other one was last time. I'd like for them to get somewhere here similar. And I believe that'll work right there. Now I probably could have worked on that a little bit as with that orange color, but I was going to have to take that off anyway, so I can go back in the fire, take advantage of it being still good and hot. It won't take as long to heat it up this time. Now I've got my tool off the anvil face, and then I can be ready to go back to work. Alright, we're just going to work on a point, just like the last one. Right out to the edge of the anvil. As you may see, I'm not hitting it very hard. I'm just hitting it just hard enough to do what I wanted to do without it jumping out of the tongs. Without me hitting my anvil face. And a good hold. Maybe just a little bit more. I'd like for it to be as pointy as the other end. We could put whichever end at the top of our handle that we want, really. And if it was up to me, I'd put my nicer one of the two on the top. That's the one you're going to see the most of the time. And chances are one will be a little nicer than the other one. We're working with metal that's not perfectly the same thickness nor the same shape. Drawing our spade out, I think that point will work out just fine. So, we're cooling off, back in the fire. Working on that spade. Obviously we would like it to somewhat mimic the other, and it seems to be. Seems like there was a little more metal at this end. I think I'm going to hit that one more time. That's good. Back to this side. Pretty good. A little there. We just keep feeding it metal wherever it needs it. Alrighty, I like the looks of that. Just a little tap there. Alrighty, just a little bit of straightening. Alright. So, it needs to go down, so we're going to come here and we're going to go down with it. Dang, I like that little hook there at the top of that. It looked pretty good. I should have left it. Alrighty, I believe that'll do. That'll work just fine. So we've got our piece all straightened out. Started with a horseshoe, different heats, manipulating it. Not really much with the hammer, mostly by hand and just hold it in the tongs. And we went over that really helps keep that all under control. And we worked our spades off at the end. Now we're going to be ready to do some hot punching. Alrighty, we'll take that, find that hole there. I'm going to come over here. I want to get that just right. Best I can, over again. We'll probably file that part off. So we'll lay it back on top of the anvil there again, just flip it over one more time. So there we've got our hot punched hole. And that'll take a nail. I think I'm going to make that one my top. I always like to make my nicer looking one go to the top of the handle because that's the one you see the most of the time. So we're going to go back in the fire now and take our first heat on forming our spade. So as I'm looking at my piece now, I'm making sure I know which way's front and which way's the back. So I'm going to come over here this way. I'm going to lay it on the anvil right on the edge. And I'm going to do that right there. And don't worry about this right here too much because it's going to bend a little bit. We're going to straighten it out. So then there's what we have now. This is the side that you're going to see at the top as you're facing. So now we need to heat up a nice section through here. And we're going to come out here into the turning fork and we're going to freehand form the rest of it. So we're going to come out of the fire, we're going to go straight over to our turning fork and we're just going to hook that in there like that and then just as straight as we can move that around this way. Now I'm going to go past what one might think was going too far because now where my tongs are is the next place we're going to want to heat up and we're going to want to flatten out and feather that out as such. Alrighty, so we'll come out here and get this out of the way. Lay this on the table here on the anvil face. And we're just as simple as this. Give this a nice little even flow. And make sure everything levels out. No daylight underneath much of it. So there you have the basic steps on how to make a horseshoe handle. You can use these on doors. You could barn doors, anything you want to open and close. Maybe even a trunk or some sort of a box. You can shape them differently. You can make them each end to look like this with a square flat front. All kinds of opportunities. And we'll let this cool off a little bit here and then we'll clean it up real nice.
This program is available for purchase. To order your copy, please call 319-362-3027 or visit www.ruralheritage.com. Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of back-to-the-land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website at www.ruralheritage.com.